Hey, what's going on everybody, and welcome back to another Fallout 4 mod throwback. I know typically throwbacks are for Thursdays, but my videos are a little bit delayed this week on account of my girlfriend's birthday, so things are just a little bit mixed up. But we are here checking out another classic Fallout 4 mod, one that I've actually never taken a look at before, and I'm very happy that I decided to today, because this one is pretty neat. The mod we're looking at today is called Junkland Firearms by Fudo-Shisan or Monkey Depot. Now, what this mod is going to do is add a ton of new guns into Fallout 4, all of which are super lore friendly. Some of them are completely new models that are completely new to Fallout in general, but are definitely fitting given the era that they are from. Others are handmade junk weapons, which are very Fallout because we love handmade weapons in Fallout, like the pipe weaponry. And there's even a pretty cool Institute weapon added by this pack, so you really get a variety of stuff, all of which actually fits very well here in the Commonwealth. And all of these things are added to the leveled list and to vendors that make sense, which is super awesome. You'll find junk weapons on raiders, you'll find Institute weapons on synths, etc. This stuff is just really cool. Now, originally when this mod first came out, it was just a handful of NIF scope made weapons using a bunch of vanilla assets, but since then it has had a bunch of updates adding even more weapons, so if you maybe used this mod when it first came out, it is much different now in its final state. So we're going to go ahead and check it out and see all of the really cool stuff that has been added, and this is definitely one that I would recommend checking out if you want to add a bunch of new lore-friendly guns to your game. Now, really quick before we begin, there are a lot of weapons in this pack, so I'm just going to kind of take it one at a time with each weapon and talk about what unique thing it brings to the table, as there are a lot of really cool quirks with some of these guns. Now, we'll go ahead and start small with some of the little tiny guns and move our way on to some of the bigger, cooler ones. And I suppose we'll go ahead and start with the Junk Pistol. This here, as you can see, is a nice little mashup of vanilla assets to make a new, really early game pipe pistol. It's using the Deliverer as a base, but does have some pipe parts added to it. Now, weapons definitely get a lot more complex here. This is just something used for the early game. As you can see here in first person, there's not a whole lot to it. It doesn't even come with sights. This is intended to be used for level 1, even though there are honestly better options at level 1 like the 10mm pistol. That being said, this is still a cool little junk gun that you can find on raiders, and just a nice little bit of NIF scope stuff to add some cool variety to the game. As far as modifications go, there's not a whole lot to this thing. It has a handful of receivers, 2 grip options, and a couple of magazines. This one is really basic, and that's why I wanted to get it out of the way first, but we'll move on to some cooler stuff right now. I figure we might as well get some of the pipe guns out of the way. This actually is not a newly added weapon, but rather the author has added some new modifications for the vanilla pipe weapons. As you can see here, this is a vanilla pipe pistol, but it has a whole lot of new stuff on it, including a 44 caliber rechamber, a brand new stock, a brand new receiver, and a brand new barrel and sight. You can really do a lot of stuff with this thing. As you can see, when we take this thing over to a weapons workbench, there are a whole bunch of new receivers. If you scroll down far enough, you will find the brand new 308 receivers, as well as 44 receivers, and even shotgun receivers, which is a pretty cool addition to add some more variety to those pipe weapons. But it doesn't end there. There are also some new sights, like these improved iron sights down at the bottom here. And there are even some new stock options, which are pretty cool. Moving on to a completely new weapon though, here we have the pipe submachine gun, a newly added weapon in this pack. As you can see, it takes a huge lead pipe, hollows it out, and turns it into a submachine gun. This is something that I think most people expected the vanilla pipe guns to look like, but isn't exactly what we got in game. This thing does actually make use of the grab the damn mag mod, so it has a pretty cool reload animation. And altogether just makes for a nice early game pipe weapon. As far as attachments go, this thing has pretty much everything you'd expect from a vanilla weapon, including different receivers, barrels, stocks, magazines, sights, and muzzle devices. A pretty cool little SMG, definitely great for those really early levels. Now, up next we have the military combat rifle, and this is the last of the weapons from the original version of this mod. After this, we'll move on to some of the really cool newly added weapons from updates. But as you can see, this military combat rifle takes the vanilla combat rifle and tweaks it a whole lot, giving it a brand new animation set, using some nice pistol grips, and it even has some neat features like an underbarrel shotgun, which is fully functional. As you can see, if we take this thing in-game here, and we shoot it regularly, it fires like a regular old fully automatic combat rifle, but if we use the melee key, it's going to switch over to the shotgun. Pretty neat stuff. But that's not all that this weapon has to offer. If we head over to a weapons workbench and pull this thing up, as you can see, we have a bunch of receiver options. Starting with the standard options, you have 5.56, and then we also have 308 conversions, 38 conversions, 45, 50 cal, and shotgun conversions, which is really cool and similar to the mod that I released not that long ago, though this one was definitely done first. Then we also have a bunch of barrel options, stock options, magazine options, of course, a bunch of different sights, and some really cool muzzle attachments, including, of course, that under-barrel shotgun. But we also have a rifle grenade launcher, which is pretty neat. Now, the rifle grenade launcher is another really cool attachment. The way that it works is you simply have to have this weapon equipped with that attachment, have some fragmentation grenades equipped in your inventory, and use the melee key. And as you can see, it will throw a grenade on the end of the barrel, and then you can fire it. Super cool, and what an interesting implementation of a rifle grenade launcher. Awesome stuff. As we move on, we have some of the weapons added by the first update, and that's going to be the ArmaLite rifle. And as you can see, this thing is beautiful and fits super well into Fallout 4 Sandbox. It's actually going to make use of Hitman's right-handed AK animations, which look great on this rifle. Now, one small thing I will say with a lot of the weapons in this pack, if they have custom sounds, some of the sounds are a bit off compared to some of the vanilla sounds, but it's not the most noticeable thing, and it's definitely not super important in terms of what I'm looking for. Looking at this thing in the weapons workbench, it's going to have pretty much everything you'd expect on a weapon mod, including different receiver options, barrel options, stock options, magazine sights, muzzles, and even some color options, so you can change things like the stock and grip. For example, we can change the color of the wood there, which is pretty neat. And then there's some other color options like the receiver as well. So you can really customize this thing a good bit. And this is going to be true for a lot of the weapons left in this pack, so I'm going to skip over the modifications section for some of these as it's going to take up a good bit of time. Now, up next we have the Calico, which is a super unique real-world firearm and something that honestly screams Fallout to me. This weapon is insane. Now, that being said, if you're not familiar with the Calico, this big octagonal tube here is actually the magazine. It's helical, much like that of something like a PP Bison. And, well, there just aren't too many vanilla reload animations for that, so using this thing in-game is a little funky. As you can see, if we equip the Calico here, you are going to be using the plasma pistol animations, which honestly is exactly what I would have done if I was to make a Calico as well. But it can prove to be a little bit weird in function. As you can see, there is a bit of clipping and stuff, but if you're trying to use vanilla animations, that's about as good as you're going to get it with the Calico. That being said, if somebody ever decided to make a fully functional Calico with custom animations, I would definitely be all for that. Moving on, after another update, this mod got a new Institute pistol. This is actually going to be a ballistic firearm for the Institute, and honestly, this thing fits pretty well. It's got a nice blocky nature to it. It's white, of course, as Institute weapons are, and this one has a pretty interesting feature. As you can see, there's a folding stock here, and when we equip this weapon in-game, that is true and present, and if you use this thing in hipfire, that will stay. But as soon as you ADS, it flips the stock down for better recoil, which is super cool. It's a unique feature, it's something that I haven't really seen in other mods, but having a fully functional folding stock is super cool. Look at that. Moving on now, we are at the final update that was ever given to the Junkland Firearms mod. This one adds 2 new rifles, the first of which is the Daewoo rifle, and this thing looks beautiful. This is a nice retro rifle that definitely fits the style of Fallout and the era that Fallout weapons come from. Much like the ArmaLite rifle, this is going to use the right-handed AK animations. We'll go ahead and check those out and see how they fit on this gun. Again, apologies if the volume is a little bit low on the firing sound. They just kind of come a bit quiet in this mod. So definitely something you could fix on your own if you really wanted to. Otherwise, you just kind of have to deal with some quiet firing sounds. Now, the last weapon added to this pack is going to be the Howl rifle, and this is another one of those weapons that just fits very well in the era of Fallout and looks super nice in game. This is again going to use those right-handed AK animations and is very similar to a lot of the weapons that we've already seen, like the Daewoo and the ArmaLite. But even with all that aside, this is honestly one of my favorite weapons in this pack. This thing looks super cool in first person, and I like it a lot. There you have it. So yeah, guys, that is the Junkland Firearm pack. This is definitely a pretty cool one, and it's available for both PC and Xbox, so it's definitely worth checking out if you want to add a whole batch of lore-friendly weapons into your game. One thing that this mod definitely does very well is quantity. You get a whole lot of weapons for a relatively small file size, so this is some pretty cool stuff. Now, this is a pretty old mod. The last time it was updated was in 2018, so it's probably not going to be receiving much support any longer, so it's kind of as is. So take with it what you will. There are definitely a couple of bugs and some small things here and there that may be a little bit much for some users, but if you want to get a bunch of cool lore-friendly weapons, this is a nice one-stop shop for it. Either way, if you want to try the mod out for yourself, it will be linked down in the description below. Again, it's available for both PC and Xbox. With that though, we're going to go ahead and bring this video to a close. Now, I want to get more regular about uploading Throwback Thursdays again, so let me know if there's any classic Fallout mods that you think should be represented and get some attention brought back to them. Either something underrated or just a really cool classic that you really want to see on the channel. With that though, we'll go ahead and wrap this up. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, don't forget to drop a rating, subscribe if you haven't already for more videos just like this, and I hope to see you in the next one. Peace!